The story begins with Yuta, an average-looking guy with a gloomy personality and no hope of finding a girlfriend until he meets a certain someone. It all started a month ago when he posted his opinion of a book titled About Love on social media. Almost immediately, he receives a reply from someone who has also read it, the first time she has found a fellow reader. After a brief chat, they connect so well that the person on the other side of the screen asks to hang out. As soon as he receives the message, Yuta feels too insecure to believe it. He worries it might be a prank or wonders if the girl is simply nerdy enough to want to meet him. Still, he messages back, stating he is willing to meet if she is okay with someone like him. She immediately suggests meeting at 7 in the evening. When the day of the meeting arrives, she messages him to say she is waiting at the east exit. Yuta is sweating, convinced she will leave the moment she sets eyes on him. At that moment, someone asks if he is Yuta. He is instantly dazzled because standing before him is a beautiful girl he never expected to see. His heart thumps in his chest, and his mind races with 1,000 thoughts. The girl, seemingly unaware of his internal turmoil, points toward the place where she has reserved table for them. Meanwhile, Yuta's thoughts spiral. It has been a long time since he had a proper conversation with a woman. He worries she might regret meeting him, but when she looks at him with a warm smile, he blushes furiously and tries to push his insecurities aside. They stand in front of the restaurant, a fancy establishment that feels far beyond Yuta's usual reach. When she mentions that the place is perfect for a date, he is stupefied, assuming she is asking him out right then and there. He had assumed this was just an informal meeting, and the idea of a formal date makes him hesitant. He awkwardly suggests they should get to know each other before jumping into a romantic setting. However, her next sentence clears his confusion. She is simply suggesting this location as a potential spot if he ever wants to go on a date in the future. As they prepare to go inside, Yuta is struck by the feeling that he doesn't deserve to be with this girl or in this place. They look so mismatched that people nearby begin to stare. He even catches whispers from the crowd murmuring that they couldn't possibly be a couple and suggesting the girl might just be an escort. Once they are settled at their table, he is drowned in anxiety over what others think of him sitting with someone so beautiful. He tries to remind himself not to get his hopes up, convinced that an opportunity like this is a one-time occurrence he will never see again. She asks what he would like to drink, and he nervously settles on a beer. They both order, and when the drinks arrive, she clinks her glass against his to cheer for their first offline meeting. He is so nervous that he can't find the words to talk to her properly. Desperate for courage, he decides to rely on the alcohol to find his guts. He gulps the entire drink in one go, which leaves her staring at him in surprise. The sudden rush makes him cough, and he feels pathetic in his state. However, the girl is concerned enough to reach over and gently wipe his face. The intimacy of the gesture is so intense that he practically shouts in surprise. She immediately apologizes for her behavior. Finally finding his voice, he expresses his deep insecurities, telling her she won't get anything from being with him since he is neither handsome nor rich. At that, she simply grins. He doesn't understand her smile until she explains that she wanted to meet him because he is the only person who has read About Love, her all-time favorite book. That shared connection is the only reason she wanted to know him personally. Yuta ponders her question about him for a moment. He eventually answers, calling himself a loser who will likely never find a girlfriend. Even after reading the book, About Love, he hasn't taken it seriously. In his misery, he believes romance is simply out of reach. He continues his self-deprecating humor, labeling himself a disappointment. For a moment, her expression softens as she listens to his thoughts. Then, she asks if not having a girlfriend is truly what makes him a disappointment. With a mischievous smile, she offers to be his girlfriend. Yuta's heart gives a violent thump at her words. She repeats his own logic back to him. If not having a girlfriend makes him a loser, then having one means he won't be a loser anymore. He is a complete mess, her sweet voice pulling at him like a siren's call. He stumbles over his words, wondering who this girl could possibly be. Suddenly, she crushes his train of thought by saying she is just kidding. She apologizes, clearly in a good mood after teasing him so effectively. To save face, he tells her he already knew she was joking. She then flirts further, telling him that even as a loser, he is actually kind of cute. Yuta is taken aback for a moment, the blood rushing to his face. He tries to take it as a joke, telling her not to make fun of him. Deep down, he knows she is entirely out of his league and that he should not get involved. Yet, he can't do anything about his treacherous heart, which is already falling for her. After finishing their meal, they rise from the table. She admits the food was quite good, though poor Yuta is too deep in a state of shock to notice any of the flavors. He awkwardly agrees with her nonetheless. Inwardly, he is still recounting the embarrassing incidents of the evening. First, he choked on his beer. Then, he realized he had forgotten his wallet on table right when it was time to pay the bill. To make matters worse, he scattered his coins everywhere the moment she stepped close to him. He feels as though he might die of embarrassment. Hesitantly, he addresses her and expresses how sorry he is for all these clumsy mishaps. To make it up to her, he offers to walk her to the station. Seeing her confused expression, he immediately overthinks again, worrying that he is talking too much. To his surprise, she happily agrees, jokingly asking if he wants to escort her. The word catches him off guard, but he agrees anyway. He extends his hand and she boldly slips her arm through his. Surprised by her forwardness, he asks if she is drunk. She playfully answers that maybe she is. Her expression makes him gulp as he tries to calm his racing heart. He is certain that she is doing this just to mess with his head, so he plans to simply drop her at the station and say farewell. He has already assumed that today will be both their first and last date. While walking, he decides to take a long detour because the station is only a block away, because he wants to spend just a little more time with her. He is so immersed in his thoughts that he doesn't notice where he is leading her. He snaps back to reality when he spots the hotel and realizes they've unintentionally wandered into a love hotel district. His date seemingly knows the area and teases him about his choice of scenery. Panicked, he tries to clarify that he didn't mean to bring her here. She chuckles at his antics and asks if he has been here before. She confesses that she has never visited places like this herself, though she has heard there are classy, extravagant hotels nearby. Looking at his face, she wonders if he is having bad thoughts. He outrageously denies it and wants to leave the area quickly. He points toward the station, but she stops him. She suggests a question. What if she tells him that she doesn't want to go to the station yet? Yuta ponders the weight of her words, his mind racing to decipher her true intent. Unwilling to risk a misunderstanding or a rejection, he suggests they wander a bit longer. She agrees, teasingly asking if he plans to run away from her. Then, her tone shifts. She suggests that this is his chance to stop being a loser. His heart beats so violently, he fears it might leap right out of his body at her mere touch. As they walk, he tries to manage his expectations. He tells himself that it is better not to hope for anything serious now, fearing the pain of his expectations being shattered later. He can't believe a girl like her would have any serious thoughts about him. Before he can dwell on it further, she suggests they actually explore the area they are in. For our poor boy, the suggestion is almost too much to handle. Her next words make his heart flip-flop as she inquires what he wants to do. He doesn't understand the meaning of her words, or how he should answer. Looking into her eyes only makes him more nervous. He shouts at her, insisting she should not suggest something like that. Then, he softly explains that, what if he was a bad guy who takes advantage of her after bringing her here? She repeats his sentence back to him, asking if he would really do such a terrible thing. He assures her that he would never do anything bad to her, but tells her she needs to value herself more. His statement makes her eyes widen. However, he is immediately confused by his own words, wondering what he is babbling about. She understands his message and tells him with a smile that her decision to meet him was the right one. He is taken aback by her statement. It makes him wonder if he is doing the right thing. Then, she offers to head back. Her smile puts him at ease, making it feel as if nothing awkward happened as they start walking. They walk gradually toward the station. He apologizes for reaching the station so late, but she brushes off his worry, insisting she had fun. With a soft expression, she remarks on how time flies and notes that they are already there. Looking at her beautiful face again, he feels like his heart might jump out of his chest. She moves past her statement and asks if he is going the same way. He tells her he is going another way, meaning it is time for them to part. He nervously apologizes again for making her stay out so long. She brushes off his concern once more, reminding him that she enjoyed herself. Besides, after this meeting, she is even more interested in getting to know him. Then, she steps closer, which clearly startles him. He can't believe what she is doing. Without warning, she pulls out his cell phone. With a smile, she hands the phone back, telling him to call whenever he feels like it. Finally, she bids him goodbye and leaves. The poor boy stands there, totally rattled. After a while on the metro, he reflects on the day's events. It all feels too surreal to be real. He turns her suggestion of going to a hotel over in his mind. Suddenly, his phone buzzes, a message from her. In that moment, he realizes that he was so swept up in the excitement of the meeting that he completely forgot to even ask for her name. When he reaches home, sleep remains out of reach. He thinks about her advice to stay in touch. Deciding to take the lead, he messages her, insisting that he should be the one thanking her. A goodnight greeting flashes on his screen. Even with her message right there, he can't bring himself to hope that someone like her would ever want to meet someone like him again. 10 days have passed since then, but Yuta cannot forget the meeting, and he certainly hasn't forgotten her. He constantly checks his phone, hoping to see a notification from her, but it never comes. He remembers her telling him to feel free to contact her. He wonders if they could meet again, if he just reached out, but he groans in confusion. Contacting her feels like giving away too much about his feelings. Suddenly, a notification pops up on Twitter. Someone liked his tweet. After checking the notification, he realizes this person has been looking through his account recently. An idea strikes him. What if he posts about planning to watch the premiere of the movie and wonders if anyone wants to join him? He hopes, perhaps foolishly, that she will see it and offer to come along, but his mind starts racing again. He overthinks, fearing he won't get a reply at all, or worse, that she'll see the post and find him pathetic when he won't get any reply. Anyway, gathering his courage, he hits post. He waits an hour, eyes glued to the screen every now and then. Finally, a notification appears. A like from that mystery girl. He can't believe that he's getting this excited over a mere like. He even scolds himself for being so restless. He has no idea what she's thinking, and his mind becomes a jumble of nerves. He knows a like doesn't necessarily mean she wants to meet, leaving him to wonder, should he take the leap and contact her online? He paces furiously in his room, turning the situation over in his head. He tells himself it's far too optimistic to think she would want to meet someone like him. After all, Asan is just a follower. Still, with a beating heart, he sends her a polite message, thanking her for their last meeting and courageously asking if she is free this weekend. Even after hitting send, his mind finds no relief. He spiraled into worst-case scenarios. What if she blocks him online, thinking he's getting carried away? What if she finds him annoying? He begins to regret sending the message entirely. Meanwhile, she is exercising when she receives his notification. A smile plays on her lips as she reads his text. Back in his room, Yuta waits. As several hours pass without a word, he becomes certain she has already blocked him. Just as he starts to accept this reality, a reply arrives. She thanks him but explains she can't join him because she is already committed to someone else this weekend. When she suggests meeting some other time, he dismisses it as a polite excuse. He decides it's time to go back to his usual gloomy self and forget her. He is about to delete their chat thread when he is terrified by an incoming call. Panic surges through him, but he answers anyway, stammering a quiet, "Hello?" She apologizes for calling so late but asks if they can talk for a moment. He agrees, wondering what is happening. She explains that since he reached out, she simply wanted to know how he is doing. She asks about his post, wanting to know if he truly wants to see her. Fumbling for words, he replies that it was just a movie he thought she might be interested in. He can't believe his luck when she tells him that, while she is busy this weekend, but she is free the following week. He immediately agrees to meet, provided it isn't a problem for her. With a smile in her voice, she tells him to wait for her. When she hangs up with a final goodnight, Yuta plops into his pillow. His heart hammers against his ribs, his mind revolving around her every word. He wonders if she is already asleep, unaware that on the other side of the city, she is staring at her phone and smiling, finding his nervous antics endearingly cute. The next day, he sits at his office desk, his mind drifting toward the anticipation of meeting her next week. He plans to finish all his work early, just to be ready. Even the mere thought of her makes him blush. He is suddenly startled by his colleague, Akari, who catches him grinning to himself. Startled, he inquires her what she needs. She shows him the documents he prepared. He remembers how his senior begged him to finish this work a day before the deadline because the senior had completely forgotten about it while planning a mixer. Akari points out his mistakes. The numbers in the tables don't match, among other errors. He realizes then that he should never have accepted the task in the first place. He apologizes politely and prepares to amend the file, but Akari still looks at him with annoyance. Then she asks if he is going on a date, noting how excited he seems. He considers for a moment whether meeting the mystery girl counts as a date and immediately tries to deny it. However, his other colleagues overhear the whisper. They swarm his desk instantly, desperate for details, shocked because they didn't even know he had a girlfriend. His introverted nature is quickly overwhelmed by the crowd of extroverts. He can't believe he joined a company where everyone is so outgoing. He recalls his parents warning him that joining a game company was a bad idea back when he was still deciding on a career path. Nervously, he tells them he is just going to a movie with someone. Akari nonchalantly tells him to just fix the documents, showing zero interest in his dating life. His male colleague comments on her unfriendly behavior before turning back to Yuta with intense curiosity. He asks what Yuta plans to wear. When Yuta answers the usual, a t-shirt and pants, his colleagues groan. He warns him not to go in such boring clothes as he explains that girls spend so much time preparing with makeup and dressing up, so he should dress well enough not to embarrass her. Otherwise, he will get dumped. Yuta nods, promising to keep that in mind. As they leave, one colleague tells him to do his best, while another tells the first one not to scare him too much. Watching them, Akari thinks to herself that these men behave like high schoolers. She wonders about the taste of a girl who would go out with someone like Yuta. More than that, she feels a sting of hopelessness. If even someone like Yuta is going on a date while she is stuck working, she needs to take action. At that moment, she decides to check a dating app. Later that evening, when Yuta returns home, his colleagues' suggestions weigh heavily on his mind. He hasn't bought anything nice in years. He thinks back to the mystery girl. Her clothes had seemed stylish and expensive, and he is determined not to embarrass her. He digs through his wardrobe, searching for something suitable, but after checking every single shelf, he realizes with a sinking feeling that he doesn't own a single decent outfit. He decides there is only one solution. He has to go shopping, but before stepping foot in a store, he decides to do some research on the latest fashion trends for men in their 20s. He is immediately baffled by the search results. There are endless guides on recommended outfit coordination, fashion that appeals to women, and various popular aesthetics. Unable to decide what to choose or what to ignore, he finally gives up on the research and collapses onto his floor. Now, he resolves to simply head to a shop this weekend and see for himself. When he finally arrives at the clothing store, he feels completely out of place in his shabby clothes. He forces himself to find the courage to step inside. The moment a salesperson welcomes him, Yuta jumps, totally startled. The clerk asks if he is looking for something specific, and when Yuta mentions he needs an overall new look, the man looks confused. The clerk points to a shirt in Yuta's hand, noting that it's a very nice piece. Yuta is baffled by the compliment. As the salesman rattles off facts, how the shirt was recently added to their collection and comes in various sizes and colors, Yuta feels himself being thrown back by the sheer amount of information. Finally, he gathers the nerve and decides to try it on when the boy urges him to do. After wearing it, he doesn't feel like himself at all. He eventually steps out and asks for the salesperson's honest opinion. With a bright smile, the boy compliments him, insisting that he looks awesome. Yuta, however, still lacks confidence. He initially thinks the outfit has too gaudy a personality, but it slowly begins to feel okay. Drawing on the memory of his colleagues' teasing, he decides to be bold. Imagining the mystery girl's surprised reaction, he resolves to overhaul his image entirely and asks the salesperson to show him even more striking pieces. By the time he finishes shopping, the bill comes to 43,000 yen, a staggering price that leaves him reeling. Stepping out of the shop, he hopes to look more presentable in his new clothes. At that exact moment, a girl brushes past him. Startled, his heart begins to hammer against his ribs. He wonders if it's her. She seems to be looking around for someone. He takes a step forward to say hello, but stops dead in his tracks. The girl approaches a boy, apologizing for making him wait so long. The boy smiles warmly, asking how he could ever be mad at her for being late. Yuta stands there, completely petrified by the scene. The shopping bag slipped from his numb fingers and hit the ground with a thud. The week finally draws to a close. It is time to meet her, yet Yuta cannot unsee the image of her with that other boy. He constantly wonders about the stranger's identity, the thought gnawing at him even as he prepares for the meeting. To be honest, he was on the verge of canceling the night before. He had even typed out a message, crafting an apology and an excuse to call it off. But at the last second, he had a change of heart and instead sent a message saying he was looking forward to seeing her. Now, he finally arrives at the meeting spot. A notification pings on his phone, informing him that she is already there, standing near the large clock. Surprised that she beat him to the location, Yuta looks around in a blur of confusion, searching the crowd to spot her. He finally spots her, but she is already being approached by a stranger who won't take no for an answer, trying to charm his way into a date. She is completely ignoring him, and watching this, Yuta panics. He wonders if he should step in, but before he can decide, the stranger notices him. With a deep blush, Yuta hesitantly speaks up, explaining that he is the one she is meeting. The stranger looks Yuta up and down and bursts into laughter, mocking the idea that she would meet someone like him. He points out Yuta's bizarre choice of clothes, sneering that someone of her caliber shouldn't be seen walking beside a guy with such a bad sense of fashion. He suggests she ditch Yuta and come with him instead. But to his shock, the girl steps forward and firmly grabs Yuta's hand, telling the stranger she has been looking forward to meeting Yuta all day. He is utterly baffled. He tries to point back at the bully, but she simply tells him to ignore it. The stranger watches them, unable to believe that Yuta is the one she chose. Meanwhile, Yuta feels a wave of shame for having to be protected by her. He thinks back to the boy he saw her with earlier and assumes that that person would have been the one protecting her in a situation like this. After a while, they finally settle into a restaurant. She comments on the terrible incident they just faced, but she seems relieved that they are finally together. Yuta is too dazzled to answer. She looks incredibly beautiful. She asks why he didn't call out to her the moment he spotted her. Nervously, he confesses his fear that if a lame guy like him spoke to her in public, it would only bother her. For a moment, she looks sad. Then, she points out that he looks quite different from their last meeting. She asks bluntly if he was trying to look good for her. His heart thumps against his ribs, but he keeps his expression panicked, stammering that he just wanted to look like a normal person. He admits that he feels like a weirdo because of his poor fashion sense, regretting his attempt to look cool when he clearly doesn't know how. She speaks to him softly, telling him with a warm smile that he is far more charming when he is just himself, rather than trying to impress her just to get something in return. He gulps, reminding himself again not to let his hopes get too high. However, she can't help but add with a light chuckle that his outfit really is a mess. Yuta sinks into his seat, embarrassed to hear a final confirmation of how lame he looks. She surprises him by saying there is still time before the movie starts, so she asks him to accompany her. When they stop in front of a shop, he doesn't understand why she brings him there. She lightheartedly tells him that they are going to play dress-up. He remains baffled by her suggestion. She goes inside and checks the outfits with full confidence. This makes him realize he was right to assume she is used to these things. He then thinks of the worst-case scenario, her shopping with that guy. At that moment, she addresses him. She suggests some pants, assuming he will look good in them because of his slender physique, even though she doesn't know much about men's fashion herself. The shopkeeper asks whether he is going to buy. She urges him to go ahead. He feels embarrassed to change his pants, but he listens as the shopkeeper playfully asks if they are on a shopping date, and she doesn't deny it. His heart beats faster hearing her confirm. He comes outside with a shy expression. The shopkeeper compliments his look, noting that the pants complement his shirt and make it stand out as the main piece. She also praises his clothes, saying they look good on him. Next, the shopkeeper suggests he try contact lenses if he is going to groom up. When he takes off his glasses, he realizes how poorly he sees without them. However, she clears his confusion by putting his glasses back on his nose, telling him that he looks like himself with them and that she prefers it this way. With a nervous chuckle, he states that he will stick with the glasses. Then, the girl pays for his item. Baffled, he replies that he will pay since they are his clothes, but she brushes his concern aside. She comments that it is fun for her to shop with him, so he offers to accompany her again for their next shopping trip. Embarrassed, he finds himself falling for her more and more, but he knows that if that person is her boyfriend, it is better for him to distance himself. Ideally, he should remain ignorant of her business with that man. But he knows it is better to clear the air before becoming hopeful or getting hurt in the end. Hesitantly, he approaches the topic. He mentions he saw someone who looked like her and perhaps mistook her for someone else. Finally, he asks whether the person she met that time was her boyfriend. He finds the courage to ask her the question that was nagging him, but braces himself for the answer. For a moment, she doesn't remember what he is talking about, but then she recalls last week and tells him he should have just called out to her. He laughs at her response while thinking that if someone like him called her, it wouldn't mean anything. Instead of answering, she wonders with a meaningful expression why he is so interested in knowing if she has a boyfriend. He is startled to hear this, but clarifies that it would be inappropriate for them to meet if she were seeing someone. When she points out that this is the case, his heart thumps again. He's so confused that he doesn't know what to say. However, she starts laughing and reveals that the person was actually her brother. He came here last week after an incident with a girl, where he was nearly stabbed. Concerned, Yuta asks if he is all right. She then comments on how he could possibly mistake her brother for a boyfriend. He nervously apologizes. She then asks whether he is relieved. Baffled, he tries to brush off his feelings, but she repeats if he was jealous. He quickly declines, claiming he was just curious. She accepts his answer, noting there is nothing between them, which only leaves him more confused. Then, she makes him hurry as it is almost time for the movie to start. Her double-meaning words are making him lose confidence, but for now, he decides to let the matter go. The most important thing is that she isn't committed. Being with her is enough for now. Finally, they make it to the cinema in time. However, they still need to buy tickets, which baffles him again. He decides to go and buy the tickets himself. Her expression softens as he steps forward to take charge. Meanwhile, he is nervous as hell because he wants to take the lead in a situation like this. He wonders whether sitting side by side is the right thing to do. He doesn't even know what normal people do in this kind of situation, since it is his first time watching a movie with someone. Finally, he shows her the tickets he bought for them. She thanks him, which is a massive relief for his nerves. When she tries to pay him back for her ticket, he stops her. He insists it is fine, especially since he didn't pay her back for the clothes earlier. She thanks him again while accepting his offer. They head to Theater 2, where several other couples are already watching. Everything is going smoothly, but now her mere presence makes it impossible for him to concentrate on the movie, even though he was looking forward to it. He has no idea where to put his arms. Even though they sat side by side just a little while ago, it feels awkward now. He guesses the darkness of the theater is to blame. His racing thoughts are interrupted when she leans closer, teasing him that this feels like a real date. Then, she tells him they should practice a little. She reaches out, takes his hand, and interlocks their fingers. His heart beats so hard he feels as if it might jump out of his chest. She tells him this will give him good practice for when he goes on a real date with someone. In that moment, Yuta doesn't care if it is just pretense. He feels slightly pathetic for holding her hand when they clearly aren't in a relationship, but he can't shake the feeling that nothing else matters. He just wants to live in this moment, and finds himself wishing the movie would go on forever. They stay like this for a while. He doesn't even know how much time has passed. He just feels the warmth of her being with him. During this time, he is so immersed in the moment and the weight of her head on his shoulder that he can't concentrate on the movie. However, when she removes her hand from his, he immediately overthinks the worst. He wonders if he is doing something wrong, thinking maybe his hand started sweating badly. He scoffs at his own ridiculous thoughts, reasoning there is no way she would hold his hand for so long if she were uncomfortable. Still, he regrets not pulling his hand away first, just to ease his nerves. At that moment, he notices her picking up a handkerchief and wiping her eyes, realizing that is why she moved her hand. He gathers his courage to reach for her hand again, but stops himself. Looking at him, she rests her head back on his shoulder with a soft smile. As the lights come up in the theater, she stretches. He begins to overthink again, fearing she might finally wake up to the reality of their situation. Then, she suggests they head out. He agrees, still feeling as though he is living in a dream. Now outside, she compliments the movie and expresses how glad she is that he invited her. She wonders if he has read the novel the movie is based on and whether he noticed any differences. He struggles to answer, still too mesmerized by her presence to have focused on the plot. She brings it up again, teasing that he was the one who invited her and questioning whether he even watched the movie. When she asks what was on his mind, he doesn't know what to say, so he simply mentions seeing her cry during the film. She pours out her emotions, explaining that being human means she is allowed to cry and feel angry. While he finds her vulnerability adorable, he is struck by a wave of worry that he might have angered her. He offers an immediate apology, but she simply laughs, questioning whether he truly believes she is upset. She clarifies that she isn't bothered by such things and admits she was only testing him, which brings him a profound sense of relief. Watching the dusk settle in, she remarks on how quickly the hours have slipped away. He feels momentarily paralyzed, unsure of his next move. Although they are supposed to part ways after meeting for the movie, he realizes he cannot leave yet, at least not before finally learning her name. Raising his voice a bit too loudly, he suggests they grab a meal together. He nervously adds that she shouldn't feel pressured to agree, explaining that he simply wants to hear her thoughts on the film over dinner. He feels awkward and indecisive, frustrated by his own lack of composure. She playfully asks if his invitation is actually a sign that he wants to spend more time with her. His heart performs flip-flops as he attempts to deny it, but as she draws closer, he finally admits that she is right. With a happy smile, she accepts, noting that she is also starting to feel hungry. She excuses herself for a moment to freshen up her makeup. While waiting, he notices a notification on his phone and realizes he forgot to turn it off. He sees a message from another person who had hoped to join him for the movie. Receiving such a message is rare for him, but he chooses not to dwell on it, as his main priority is finding the perfect restaurant for his companion. As Asan returns to ask where they are headed, the other girl sends a second message, holding on to the hope that he will eventually see it. After enjoying a satisfying meal, she is visibly happy to share her detailed thoughts about the movie, noting that the good food was an excellent bonus. He nervously agrees, confessing that this is the first time he has ever shared his cinematic opinions with anyone. His mind drifts to how quickly the night is ending, until her voice pulls him back. She suggests they wander for a while to clear their heads, which fills him with joy because it means their time together isn't over yet. He agrees immediately. As they walk toward a bridge, she enjoys the cool night breeze. He admits to himself that the setting is beautiful, noticing for the first time that they are surrounded by couples. When she asks what he is looking at, he explains his appreciation for the scenery. She agrees, adding that the location is rumored to be a very popular dating spot. Suddenly, she cups his face in her hands and suggests they should also do something memorable. His thoughts run wild, wondering if she is hinting at a kiss. With his heart hammering against his ribs, he wonders if he is ready to take such a significant step. Just as he braces himself, she lets go of his face and laughs, revealing that she was only kidding. She jokingly asks if she surprised him. Embarrassed and flustered, he nervously points out that a guy could easily get the wrong idea from her actions. She catches him off guard by claiming she doesn't say things like that to just anyone, adding that she trusts him not to misunderstand. A part of him wonders if this is all just a game she plays to keep him engaged, but he feels pathetic enough to keep playing along simply because he wants to know her better. He finally musters the courage to ask for her name. She laughs at his hesitation over such a simple question before revealing that her name is Azusa. He thanks her, repeating the name silently to memorize it. She teases him, urging him to say it out loud. When she leans in to whisper his own name in his ear and asks him to repeat hers in the same way, his face turns crimson. He fights to keep his heart from getting the wrong idea. As they prepare to part ways, she promises they will hang out again. Holding her pinky finger, he agrees, even though he wonders why someone like her would want to spend time with him. She then boldly suggests watching a movie at his place all night next time. He is stunned, nervously joking about how cramped his apartment is. Several days pass after their date. It is the weekend, a time Yuta usually spends alone, yet he feels a strange sense of emptiness. He cleans his home until it is spotless, mocking himself for being a fool who is waiting for a message that hasn't arrived. He finds himself imagining her with another boy and quickly scolds himself, knowing her personal life is none of his business. To distract himself, he scrolls through social media. He comes across a message from the same person who had asked to join him for the movie. He realizes he forgot to reply days ago and worries about being rude. Though he wonders about the sender's identity, he decides it is finally time to respond. Somewhere else, a girl named Amatella is shocked to see a reply from him. She smiles, referring to him by the title Dark Knight Sensei. Meanwhile, Yuta sends a reply to Amatella, stating that he has already watched the movie. On the other hand, he waits desperately for Asuza's reply. He avoids contacting her constantly, fearing it might annoy her or lead her to block him, so he stops himself. He never imagined he could feel so much for a woman, and now, going without contact for just a few days makes him feel pathetic. At that moment, he receives a message from his mother asking about his work and whether he has found someone to marry. This annoys him, as he feels he needs at least a girlfriend before marriage is even a possibility. To rub salt in the wound, advertisements for marriage-matching apps keep popping up. He is self-aware enough to know he would likely end up as fodder for such apps. For a brief second, he imagines Asuza as his wife, welcoming him home. He slams his head against his hand, calling himself an idiot for imagining the impossible. However, he wonders if getting a girlfriend from an app might make Asuza try to stop him. He quickly crushes that hope, realizing that it would make him a terrible person. Then, he receives a message from Amatella. Instead of a simple reply, she sends a DM. The message is long, but the gist is that she wants to hang out with him if the opportunity arises. He is shocked by the length of the text and confused as to why she calls him sensei. He wonders who this person could be. They both follow each other, and he gets the feeling he has received replies from her in the past as well. To learn more, he checks her account, but he can't quite figure her out but assumes that the person is an old guy. He also guesses that she might be calling him sensei out of habit. The person is inviting him to see the movie again, and while he doesn't mind a second viewing, he knows he won't get the same feeling he had with Asuza. He decides to message her to apologize and suggest they hang out another time. However, he is taken aback by her reply. She apologizes for being persistent, but explains she wants to seize the opportunity because there is an autograph session with Rion Amatsuki tomorrow. She remembers him posting that he liked Devilish as Hell, so she invited him to go together. He remembers how much he loved that light novel during middle and high school, so he wants to go. Besides, it will distract him from his lonely thoughts about Asuza. He messages back saying he would like to attend the session, but asks hesitantly if she is truly okay with him coming along. She answers that she is sure. She was initially hesitant to go alone, but she is hopeful he will join her. She sends him the location and details. Yuta can't believe how long and fast her replies are. He pulls out the light novel, feeling nostalgic. He decides to reread it before tomorrow, which leaves him quite excited. The next day, he is waiting outside. He has never met anyone from the internet except Asuza, so he is getting nervous about the meeting. He messages her describing what he is wearing and immediately gets a reply stating she is in light blue. Poor Yuta assumes the person is a guy, imagining the stereotypical fat man he had seen on Amatella's account. Therefore, he looks around to spot him. Suddenly, a girl tugs his sleeve and calls him Dark Knight Sensei. He turns and sees a girl who introduces herself as Amatella. He nearly freaks out to find a girl standing there instead of a guy. The very next moment, Yuta apologizes for his shocked reaction, explaining that instead of a young girl, he had been expecting an older man. Looking flustered, the girl explains, in a long, rambling sentence, just how nervous she is. She was looking forward to meeting him so much that she couldn't even sleep. He realizes then that she almost always speaks in long monologues. However, a wave of guilt washes over him as he worries about Asuza's potential reaction to him meeting a young girl, even though he had no idea Amatella was female. He can almost imagine Asuza scoffing at him, thinking he'll go out with just anyone. He quickly consoles himself with the fact that it is just an autograph event and nothing more. Still, he decides to keep a cool head and asks if she is ready to head to the event, to which she immediately agrees. He then notices she is still tugging on his shirt. When he nervously points it out, she panics, steps back, and profusely apologizes. He feels a sudden pang of concern for her, wondering what might have happened if she had approached the wrong guy instead of him. She launches into another long monologue, essentially berating herself. She claims her sense of distance is off, and that she shouldn't have touched him with her dirty hands. He immediately comforts her, insisting that he is the one who should apologize. She apologizes yet again. Finally, she offers to lead the way, since she has already looked up the directions, and he agrees with a polite thank you, though inwardly he doubts they will make it there smoothly. She begins to lead, turning right and left with confidence. However, after a moment, she looks visibly confused. Suspecting they are lost, Yuta takes matters into his own hands and politely asks to see the map. When he checks it, he realizes the destination is right behind the building where they are currently standing. She is shocked to hear it. To avoid hurting her feelings, he praises her anyway, telling her she was the one who led them there. Her eyes light up at the compliment. They head toward the back of the building, where a massive line has already formed. It is expected, given the popularity of the author of Devilish as Hell. Yuta ushers her into the queue. Once they are settled, he thanks her again for the invitation, mentioning how nostalgic he felt after rereading the book. She happily thanks him in return, mentioning that she first read the book when she was in elementary school. This catches his attention. Realizing she might still be a student, he asks if his hunch is correct. He is right. She explains that she is currently a vocational school student and is 19 years old. Yuta can't believe his ears. He realized he first read Devilish as Hell 10 years ago. Noticing his freaked-out expression, she asks what's wrong. He brushes it off, simply explaining that he just realized he is quite a bit older than her. Then, he changes the topic, noting that the book seems quite intense for a third grader to read. She admits that he is right, especially because the heroine, Rumta, is a succubus in training. However, she explains that once she started reading, she was totally hooked. In that moment, she gets carried away, describing a scene where Rumta falls into a trap set by Senior Succubus. She is so absorbed that she draws the scene multiple times, as if a switch has flipped inside her. He is impressed to learn she can draw. His praise boosts her confidence, even as she babbles about her art not being impressive. Curious, she asks about his favorite character. He explains that it might be Breath, the angel who appears in the third volume. She gets excited again, gushing over how cute Breath is. He agrees, noting the charm of her character, because despite being an angel, she has a bad personality. The next moment, his sentence is cut short as he sees her looking faint. He immediately asks about her well-being as passers-by begin to stare. She explains that the sunlight is making her dizzy. Understanding that they need to find a cool place for her to rest, he looks around and spots a restaurant. He supports her as they walk the short distance together. After a while, he helps her into the restaurant and buys her a cold drink. As soon as she feels better, she apologizes for causing him trouble. He apologizes in return for not noticing her condition sooner. She explains that she is sensitive to sunlight because she spends most of her time cooped up in her room. Looking at him with starry eyes, she explains that he is like a prince who rescues her in a time of difficulty, assuming he must be quite popular. He tries to explain that he is just an ordinary guy, but he stops mid-sentence as a realization hits him. He marvels at how calmly he is dealing with the situation. Normally, he would freak out when a woman is in trouble, but he realizes that spending time with Azusa has made him confident enough to interact with women. Her voice brings him back from his reverie. He expresses his relief with a smile, glad she is feeling okay, and warns her not to push herself since the autograph session is long. She apologizes again. When he comments that she must be looking forward to getting her autograph, she cuts him off. In reality, while she enjoys the book, the event is merely an excuse to meet him. She is simply glad she has succeeded. This revelation leaves him totally stupefied. He points out that she might be mistaking him for someone else, as they have never met before. She exclaims that she could never mistake him for anyone else. Then, she drops a bombshell. She has been waiting many years to meet him, leaving the poor boy totally baffled. He can't believe her words, because in his mind, she is supposed to be just a follower. But then, she reveals that she knows him as the Dark Knight Sensei. This totally freezes him as his mind processes her words, specifically that name. His eyes widen as he realizes what she is referring to. Dark Knight was the pen name he used on a novel posting site during middle and high school. It is a memory he tried to burn away, now resurrected by this girl. Nervously, he inquires how she came to know that name. His reaction only confirms her suspicion. He is indeed the Dark Knight. She shares that back in middle school, she was part of the Go Home Club and had no friends. She spent her time reading web novels and fell in love with his work, but then he suddenly disappeared from the site. Persistent, she searched for him, using not only his pen name, but also his user ID and birthday. She even scoured the lists of his former followers until she finally found him. He finds her persistence terrifying. Nervously, he tells her it was just a reckless phase of his youth, a dark past he'd rather forget. But she cuts him off, insisting that she loved his work and was never able to express her thoughts to him back then. She wants to do it personally now. Color rushes to his cheeks as he realizes he can't deny her kindness. She begins to carry on, almost shouting with excitement. She gushes over how detailed his stories were, noting that every harem character had a distinct personality and that she could feel the protagonist's heartbreak. He tries to stop her from reciting the specific details. When she asks why, he admits it's because she is embarrassing him. Then, she pulls out a piece of paper and asks for an autograph. It is so sudden that he isn't ready for it. She consoles him, saying all he needs to do is write his name. He feels a wave of embarrassment, remembering how he used to practice his pen name signature in the past. Eventually, he agrees, but she stares at him so intensely that it becomes difficult to write. Finally, he hands her the autograph. She then asks for a handshake. He can't believe she wants to shake hands with someone like him. Noticing his hesitation, she asks if it's okay. He reassures her that it is, noticing how nervous she is as she feverishly wipes her palms. He continues to downplay himself, wondering why she'd want to shake his hand, even as he extends his arm awkwardly. She immediately takes his hand in both of hers. He notices how small her hands are compared to Azusa's, realizing in that moment that not every woman has the same hands as he recalls the Azusa's grip. She is so enchanted by the handshake that she claims she will never wash her hand again. This freaks him out, and he tells her she absolutely must wash them. Once they finish their meal, they pay their bills separately. He wonders just how much she ate, noting that her total came to 4,390 yen. Before going outside, she takes off her jacket, looking more relaxed, and the choker around her neck catches his eye. He wonders if there is a different name for that accessory nowadays. They decide to find an indoor activity. Since he doesn't know many places, they wander randomly and end up in a manga and anime store. In the past, he watched many series, but he has lost track of recent titles due to his job. He wonders if this was the right place to come, but Amatella is so excited as she points toward the Gyaru Mani specialist section that he begins to relax, happy to see her enjoying herself. Suddenly, she grabs something from the 18+ section. Looking at her choice, he hesitantly asks if it's really okay for her to be reading that. She reminds him that she is 19, so it is legally allowed. At that moment, he realizes how nice it would be to have a girlfriend with the same interests, but he quickly brushes off the treacherous thought. He tells himself he shouldn't think that way just because he got a little closer to someone. When she calls out to him again, he snaps out of his thoughts, worried he might have done something wrong. He reassures her that everything is fine, while inwardly deciding to maintain an appropriate distance. Eventually, they decide to part ways. She thanks him for the day, and he expresses that he enjoyed himself as well. She asks to hang out again, addressing him by his pen name, but he asks her to use only his real name from now on. After he leaves and returns home, he reflects on the day's events and how much has happened. He shares a post on his Bookworm account about how it was his first time giving an autograph. Then, he settles into his routine, taking a bath before heading to bed. Meanwhile, elsewhere in a bar, Azusa looks at his post with a soft smile. After that day, he is in constant connection with Amatella. Today, he is late again from work. While sitting on the metro, he messages her to say he is heading home by train. He then checks a reply from her about him. She even sends him a photo of a rice cake. She is so excited to be connected with him that she sends him pictures of everything, even a plastic bag, with sheer enthusiasm. However, he doesn't get any messages from Azusa, something he is desperately waiting for. He can't complain much though, as he himself doesn't have the courage to message her first. One thing is bothering him, which is Amatella's persistence. Her constant messaging makes him wonder if she likes him, but he quickly scolds himself for being so full of himself. He reminds himself that she is just a fan of his web novel. He remembers her calling him by his pen name over and over. Her appreciation motivates him to start writing again, but he brushes the notion aside, thinking it's too late and that he no longer knows what to write anymore. At that moment, he remembers reading in a book that if a writer is having trouble, they should remember the things in life they can't forget and don't want to forget. Thinking about his moments with Azusa, he realizes those are the memories he can neither forget nor wants to lose. However, he assumes she might have already forgotten about him. He wonders if he should finally give up on his feelings for her. The next moment, his phone buzzes with a message from her. His eyes widen as he reads it. She is asking what he is doing right now. He is so startled that he almost drops his phone. In a state of daze, he arrives at the place she mentioned. There she is again, looking dazzling as usual. She apologizes for making him come there out of the blue, explaining she was just in the neighborhood for work. She then points out that he didn't need to rush that much, teasingly suggesting that maybe he was desperate to see her. Panicked at being seen as desperate, he tries to brush it off, claiming he just didn't want to make her wait. Her expression suggests she doesn't believe him for a second, as she asks if that's truly his excuse. Then, she leaves him stunned by grabbing his arm and confessing that she simply wanted to see him. He feels as though his heart can't take much more. She asks if they should go find dinner, and he quickly agrees. When they enter a restaurant, the hostess begins guiding them to a table. He braces himself, telling himself he should be accustomed to sitting face to face with women by now and needs to calm his nerves. However, when the hostess shows them to a side-by-side booth instead, he freaks out all over again. As she sits down, he awkwardly comments on his ignorance of the restaurant having private tables. She invites him to join her, and he sits beside her, feeling rigid and stiff because of how close they are. She notices him wearing his suit for work and reaches out to straighten his tie, complimenting him on how fresh he looks. The gesture makes him nervous as hell. When the waitress arrives with the menu, Azusa urges him to order. Once the food is decided, she tells him to eat to his heart's content, insisting it is her treat. He doesn't think he can digest anything given how she is behaving. She clinks her glass against his with a cheerful cheers. She begins the conversation by asking how he has been since they last met. Nervously, he says it has been nothing but work and home. In that moment, he remembers Amatella but decides not to mention meeting her. As if on cue, his phone begins to buzz, likely a message from her. He tries to shake it off, insisting it's nothing, but the phone continues to buzz until Azusa questions if he really doesn't want to check it. He declines. Reaching for his hand, she asks if he has found a girlfriend since they last saw each other. He nearly has a panic attack at the accusation and is about to refuse outrageously before stopping himself. His heart is still thumping as he wonders if Azusa would still want to keep in his touch if she knew about his connection with Amatella, though there is nothing romantic between them, but still they have become quite friendly. Nervously, he explains how he met Amatella, a follower from his social media account, and how they have been friendly ever since. He considers trying to laugh it off, but one glance at her serious expression makes him feel incredibly anxious about how she will react.
Here I am, know it's been